Wait a second. Usually you start, but I'm on first, which is odd. So
go for it.
You go.
Are we actually recording? I don't see like a red thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's kind of the hard part, is like I don't see the like red.
We'll get
red
new
button.
cameras with tally lights on them. Then you'll be asking me what tally lights are for.
I want one of those things that goes like.
That's a clapboard.
Well, we should get like a couple of those. So
tally lights are like, you know that the camera's on and on you, but then we got to buy like 5,000.
What we need is one of those on-air signs on the wall that turn on and off. That'd be kind of just like in here would be kind of cool. But anyway, we don't make money podcasting yet, so we should probably not spend all day doing it. So let's, today's topic, a good one that I think is just kind of archaic in the DTF zone, and it's gang sheeting and why people live and die and are so why people live and die on gang sheets, but why there's this resistance to anything that isn't a gang sheet.
Yeah, sure. I say gang sheeting. This is my personal opinion. I think
you have an opinion.
I do.
No, that's surprising.
I think gang sheeting is familiar, right? It's just because that's the way that people have done it, and there's lots of tools that enable gang sheeting. So from the person ordering the prints, it's familiar, and honestly, from the people that are printing, it's also very low risk, because the reality is, when as a printer you get a gang sheet, you just get to say print whatever they send you, and you don't have to worry about the quality of their artwork because there's nothing you can do about it anyways. So it's kind of like, we print what you send, and if you put in a low res image, go pound sand.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I don't know the true history behind it, but I see it as this norm for a variety of reasons. And gang sheets, I think, did make sense. And obviously you have to gang it if you are printing your own stuff, but printers needed to price things easily. So it's easy to go buy a sheet, like whatever you can put on the sheet. It's like go to the store and fill the bag, whatever you can put in the bag, you get, so that's easy for a printer. I also think that originally upload systems to submit your own artwork were not very sophisticated. I mean, I think they're evolving, but so it was just simpler to do it in a very easy way. And from the shop side of it, they needed to maximize their time and or ability to leverage each inch on the gang sheet. And so it just kind of became this default behavior.
Yeah, I'll add to what you're saying there is that a lot of people, when DTF started to take off as well, they bought a DTF printer, they put it in their garage, they set up a Shopify website, and there are Shopify plugins that allow you to gang sheet. And so it just became an easy way to say, hey, we're a DTF printer and we do the best quality and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it's just like, hey, you just bought a Mamaki DTF printer, you stuffed it in a corner of your garage and started a Shopify website. And the tools available were kind of these gang sheeting tools. And just to be clear for anyone who happens to not know what gang sheeting is, because maybe somebody's watching this doesn't know what gang sheeting is, just drag all your images onto a canvas and line them up to maximize this space. So if you're going to have, 10 images of...
It's like stacking bricks.
Yeah. You just stack your bricks and then, they print a big sheet and you cut it when it comes in the mail. But yeah, I think the reason, just to sum that up, the reason that gang sheeting became popular is it was just, that's what the tool set supported. It became familiar for people, and it just lets printers off the hook for quality and puts all that responsibility on the person that's ordering the prints.
Yeah. Are gang sheets bad? No. But is there a better option? And maybe we'll dive into that a little bit. But one thing that we've made a pretty conscious decision to do with Pro Transfers and how we supply or outsource our transfers is we don't gang sheet. People can submit a gang sheet, and some people do, and that's fine. We will print it like that, but we've kind of made a foundational level decision to not gang sheet. And I think we'll get more into that, but if we just, again, go off of where people are currently at, in your eyes, what are the downsides to gang sheeting? Again, obviously because we're not using it. So why did we not do that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty conscious decision from day one. And the primary reason is quality of the final product that you're going to deliver to your customers. And so we knew that if we kind of had people sending us gang sheets, that ultimately that was going to lead to bad quality. And we knew that we wanted to focus on quality professional shops, support crafters in the crafter market and the hobby market as well. But we knew that shops that were doing this for a living, quality is a really key component for them. And we just realized pretty early on that gang sheeting just ultimately leads to bad quality. Fine if you're just doing some, hey, girls weekend in Vegas t-shirt for fun, great. Or a meme shirt or something like that, great. But if you're doing something for a brand or a high school or the fire department, gang sheeting is just going to lead to bad results. That was our number one. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off that, I think that's one that is an easy one when you start to talk to somebody about it. At least for us, when we talk about like why we don't gang sheet, is because of the quality, right? Like we have one upload. We look at each image independently so we can approve one image at a time. And then really we're able to minimize having to, or us and or the customer then having to go back, re-gang sheet, modify a whole gang sheet, order a new gang sheet, because, you know, the one mistake is it's pretty fixable with a small amount or whatever number they're ordering, but it's not this whole big batch of this thing that they now need to scrub and reorder or resubmit. So yeah, I think it's a unique thing that we have. Originally I was a little pushy back, like we should give people the option to it. That's the normal, that's what they're used to. But I think when people hear how we explain it and they really understand like, oh, like that's why they're doing it. And I guess it does make sense and when they look back at some of the pitfalls they've had with gang sheeting, they realize that we're putting some guardrails on that to prevent it.
Yeah. And I realized people were used to it. Like you said, about 100 years ago, people were used to riding horses.
I knew this quote you were going to say was going to come up at some point. So go ahead. I think it's great.
No, that was the whole quote. Like people were used to riding horses, but like
I think you always like to say 100 years ago, if you'd asked somebody what they wanted, they would have told you a faster horse and not a car.
Right. Attributable, I think, to Henry Ford maybe. Anyways, it was something along those lines. But also when we started Pro Transfers, we just kind of built this from a first principles standpoint. And with quality as a first principle, we realized pretty quickly that, like I said, gang sheeting leads to bad quality. And I can show you a demo of that in just a second. But did you want to talk about like a couple of key benefits to gang sheeting that people maybe have? Did you want to talk about that before we kind of do a demo and roll back around to examples of quality?
Key benefits of actual gang sheeting, or key benefits people get from not gang sheeting? I guess I didn't understand what she's meant there.
No, I mean, there probably are times when gang sheeting is okay, but maybe talking about why people gang sheet, what the benefit of gang sheeting was.
Okay, yeah, I think I see where you're coming from at it. And sure, if somebody, to me, this all trickles down to time. I think the benefit of a gang sheet is if it's a very easy gang sheet to build. Very, very easy, right? Very, very maybe one logo, one icon, something like that you're just copying and pasting 10 on a row 100 times for 100 images and not necessarily trying to play Tetris with 5 or 6 different images. So it's quick, easy. Or I know some people that have wanted to use us. They're like, well, I already have this whole gang sheet built. Okay, I get it. You spent time, you've done it. I don't want to ask you to undo everything just because that's the way we do it. I totally get it. But when it really trickles down to it, I think it ultimately comes down to a time thing, you know, that hidden time tax that people aren't really factoring in when they think they are getting a benefit from a gang sheet, when they're might actually not.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a little confused by that because I think, to me, gang sheeting actually takes more time than the way we do it. But I could see the perception that hey, I've already got a gang sheet, it's fast enough. I think what I hear a lot of people saying is by playing, as you mentioned, Tetris with your artwork, you get to say you save money. Because a lot of times if you order from vendors, again, we don't like to bring up anybody else's name here, but like you order from vendors, they charge a much higher price for individual prints than they do for a gang sheet. So if you go buy an individual print, you might pay $4 a print. But if you buy a gang sheet, you're going to get, you can just play Tetris with the artwork, minimize the space. There's one interesting thing though that we've seen because we've ordered a lot of these is that, and learned that when individual prints are being printed, a lot of times they're coming off of different equipment than the gang sheets that are being printed. If you order from some of the biggest vendors in a gang sheet, you can see a real difference between the quality of the print on the gang sheet versus the quality of the print that comes as an individual print. And that's not from vendor to vendor. That's like literally within the same vendor itself. And what it says to me is that not just us, but everybody clearly understands that gang sheeting is really more for a crafter market where professional shops really go for the individual prints. And we've seen that in evidence of some of the gang sheets versus non-gang sheets we've ordered from other vendors. Now, we have observable evidence, but I don't have, hard photographic facts on that, but just what we've observed that I've seen that.
Yeah. I mean, in and of that similar point of kind of that time tax. And I guess when I say time, I do think of money because that's kind of how I think of my time. Like my time is valuable. What does it cost for me to use my time or get my time back?
Yeah.
And I always, ask people like, well, how long did it take to make the gang sheet? How long did it take you to cut it out? How much are you going to complain about how straight the edges aren't, on it? And if you can just kind of hand that off and figure out the time you're saving and is it cost effective from that print, like I get it. And the kickback with gang sheets is people always like, well, I can get the cost per print down really low. And again, like, okay, well, at what sacrifice for quality and your time? But of all the shows we've gone to, I like to challenge people. I'm like, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. Go ahead, create a gang sheet, figure out your cost per print and time yourself, right? How long did it take you? What's your cost per print? And then do it with us and tell me if it is actually cheaper. I've had nobody be able to do it cheaper. Again, it's not thousands of people, but I've had some people actually try and they're like, yeah, well, actually it does make sense. And so, I think a lot of people don't see the whole trickle effect of what goes into that, both pre-gang sheet, getting the gang sheet, working through the gang sheet once it's in the shop and having that. So yeah, I tend to lean towards just trying to get people to grasp what their time is worth.
Yeah, I think there's a little correlation there. Because, when we go to a show and talk to, just call it 1,000 people, everybody says, I prefer quality over cost. But the reality is, 10% of them are like, yeah, I'm willing to pay a little bit more to ensure quality. And that 10% tends to be the pro shops that will take the time to run that test that you're talking about. We talked to one of our customers recently who literally said, hey, I've run a spreadsheet on even doing a 2-color screen print versus individual DTF prints. I mean, clearly on a cost of goods sold perspective, screen printing can look like it's less expensive, but when you then consider, how much does an employee that does screen printing really well cost? Then you've got the screens and the emulsions and the cleaning and everything else that goes along with it. It's actually kind of a wash. But the reality is, 90% of the folks that we've talked to, they're not going to take the time to do that math. And but the 10% of folks that do tend to be the pro shops caring about quality. So
yeah, I would also say that same shop, when you look at that again, cost, time, benefit to how they're doing something, would also be able to show you the details of and or trickle down of how they're able to produce more quickly, get more orders in, spend more time on sales, production, and even get their personal life stuff back. So like everything just kind of improves when you're improving your operating procedures in a way. Even if on paper, the cost per print is slightly higher.
Yeah. I think just to sum up what you're saying, there's cost of goods sold. How much did I pay for the print I actually got? But there's also overhead and other costs associated with it. And when you net all of that out, individual prints oftentimes come in, the same or less expensive. And if they come in more expensive, I've never seen them come in more expensive than, a few pennies per print.
Yeah. The one example I'm thinking of where somebody was like, "Oh, it is cheaper." And I was like, "Really? Like, send it to me. I want to see it." And I was like, how are you getting $100 off of this order? And he's like, "Oh, I have a credit for $100. And that's why." I was like, "Well, yeah, of course, then it's going to be cheaper per print. I wish I could just give you $100, but I can't on it." So then I was like, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and buy that gang sheet. That makes sense right now. But yeah, so we don't gang sheet. I mean, again, you can upload a gang sheet if you want. We can print it, but it is what it is. But why don't you talk more about how we do our individual image upload, analysis, pricing kind of thing? Because I think if we can explain that well, people will understand all the things we just led up to and why it's probably a better option for them.
Yeah. I guess a good place to start too, since we know that one of the benefits to gang sheeting, or the perceived benefits of gang sheeting, is just cost, because you play Tetris with your artwork, so that, you don't say, like when you buy an individual print from every other vendor except for us, when you buy an individual print, you pay for max width times max height of the image. So even if you buy something shaped like a triangle, you're going to pay for a square, because you're effectively buying the canvas. You're not actually buying the artwork. And we realized that, and we wanted to accommodate that. So we sort of pioneered print area pricing, where it's just contour pricing. You upload something shaped like a triangle, we are going to charge you for the shape of your artwork. Effectively, it negates the idea that you have to play Tetris with your artwork to save money, because instead of billing you for the square or the canvas, we literally bill you for the size and the shape of your artwork, and nobody else does that. So that sort of alleviates the cost concern on the gang sheeting. Just to make that maybe a little bit more real, I can pull up a demo. Let me just do that real quick. Let's switch over to, I'm on the top of the screen, you're on the bottom of the screen, and we can still see our screen. I'm gonna just do a quick upload of an Illustrator file. We have this really cool hummingbird that, it's a good example, because the hummingbird is one that is kind of shaped like a triangle. Mm-hmm. And so here I've got the hummingbird uploaded, and you can see on the bottom right of our website where you can turn on and off this little view your print area. What this does is it actually shows you the area that you're paying for. And if I were to set this to 10 inches wide, that would be 10 times 6. And if I bought one of those, the price would normally be, or the number of square inches you're paying for would be around 63 square inches. Okay. Right. But if you look at the number of square inches you're actually paying for, you're only paying for 47 square inches. And that's because we're not charging you for the full maximum width times maximum height. So it's a little subtle on our website, but the only other way to achieve that would be to gang sheet it and like play Tetris with the actual artwork. The fact that we're not sort of just using an image upload plugin on a Shopify website and actually have some experience, is like coming from doing a lot of, startups and having full control over our back end, and not just a Shopify website with a plugin, allows us to implement innovative technology to be able to do things like that.
Yeah, correct.
So
I'm glad I wrote all that code.
I'm glad you wrote all that code too. Now, what we're looking at here too is happens to be what we're going to launch soon. This is currently in beta, so there's a few new things on the site. One is that you can have us optimize things or just say, no, I'm good with my art, decline my art services here. But part of this, when I add this to my cart, is also analyzing the artwork. And this is another thing about gang sheeting, is that when we say you don't gang sheet, you give us an individual piece of artwork, we can actually have our art services department look at that individual piece of artwork, and we're doing some analysis of it before we even send it off. So if I were to just go to our little checkout screen here, you can see we did some artwork source analysis on this. We realize this is a vector image, so resolution is not going to be a problem, and we can move on. But let me throw an image in here that's not a vector image, but instead is like, let's take a look at a raster based file. Mm-hmm. So instead of an Illustrator or an SVG type file, we're going to look at something that's made out of pixels where resolution really matters. I'm going to throw this one up here, and let's start this off at 10 inches wide, and we'll get 10 of those. I'll decline artwork services and move on. And when I go to checkout, you're going to see there's a little alert here. Notice, click here to learn more. Okay. Now, this may not be how it looks in the end, but for right now, this is what we're saying. So we very clearly understand you've uploaded an image that might be a little bit small for the print size that you chose. And it's kind of a complicated topic for people who aren't super familiar with kind of translating digital artwork to physical print artwork, but the resolution needs to be at least 150 DPI, ideally closer to 300 DPI. But despite what you set that at in your tool, am I putting you to sleep? Despite what you set that in a tool like Photoshop or Canva or other tools, the size of the artwork that you decide to print actually changes the DPI. So what you can see here is, yeah, I've got this at 10 inches wide, but if I were to say, drop this down to, 6, or let's just go down to 5 inches wide, the DPI here is actually 192 DPI. So as I make the image smaller, the DPI actually goes up. And as I make the image bigger, the DPI actually goes down. Now, and we can do another video or podcast on DPI and how all that works. But since we're talking about gang sheeting, the point is if you just take all of your artwork at whatever resolution you want, this and that, you throw it into a gang sheet and upload it, we have no ability to recognize all of that data, all of those indicators for every piece of artwork in that gang sheet. We literally the only option we have is to print what it is that you send us. And the impact that resolution and those things have on the quality of the final product is going to make the difference between whether or not your customer's happy with what you put on the shirt or hat or whatever, and whether they're not happy with it. And at the end of the day, we find that a lot of times the printer is the one that actually, takes the hit on that. They're like, oh, we sent you this, you printed it, it turned out bad. The printer takes the hit on that. So not gang sheeting, being able to look at individual pieces of artwork, this is a great example of how gang sheeting leads to bad quality, how not gang sheeting helps you maintain quality for folks. And then if you can layer on the print area pricing so that you're actually paying for it like you gang sheeted it, but you're not gang sheeting it, you save time, you save money, you have you set yourself up for success with quality. And I know we didn't mention this, but then we also send everything out pre-cut.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. At no extra charge.
Right. So that's the demo. Back to you.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later. And no, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I think if it's hard to not grasp the reality of it, and I think how we just laid it out. And some people that we've talked to just like to argue. Like, I understand it, and like I can be that way too. But I think and again, this could just be me, but I think it just needs to be reframed from this is how I've always done it. This is how it always works. I can get the price per print down to this, when we're just looking at that one sole aspect of it. But I think the real question that people need to consider and ask themselves is like, where do I want to spend my time? Like, where do most of the mistakes happen and hurt me in my shop, when mistakes are ultimately going to cost them time, so turnaround time. So I mean, like you said, if we're going through all this and then we're having issues on one part of the gang sheet, they're gonna have to reorder. We are essentially providing an avenue for them to save time, minimize mistakes. Ultimately, is going to improve their turnaround time and deliverable time, which opens them up to do more work at a higher quality. Which, again, ideally, this all lends to more time, more money, less stress. What else can we do for you?
Yeah, and if you look at it from the perspective of what are the outcomes, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter how hard you work, it's the outcomes that matter. You can work hard and have crappy outcomes. You can work not so hard and have fantastic outcomes. The whole point is what matters is what are the outcomes. And what we've heard from customers who have come to us and switched to us from other vendors is consistently, we've doubled our business. We've tripled our business after we started working with you guys. We're saving time in the shop. We're making more money, and we're getting more business basically. Now, not gang sheeting is not the single silver bullet to that. There's a lot of other things we do, but individual prints and not gang sheeting is 100% a critical contributor to that. So outcomes you're looking for, grow your business, like that's some evidence that we've definitely seen, because that's what a lot of our best customers tell us.
So ask yourself, why are you gang sheeting?
Yeah.
Not me. Not me.
There's one time I would consider gang sheeting. Maybe names and numbers. I think names and numbers can be very helpful when it comes to gang sheeting. And so you can't say you never want to gang sheet. And if we ever did add gang sheeting or allowed gang sheeting or promoted it, it would probably be around names and numbers. So just to kind of like,
are you foreshadowing to something else?
No, I'm not. I'm just steel manning the opposite side. Cause we have had
names and numbers.
We have had customers that are like, look, I want to do names and numbers. I like it. And our print runs are 60 inches wide. And so they send us like something that's 60 inches wide and like, a few meters long. It's easier. Sometimes that can be a little bit easier, but that's a very, very specific case. And in which case we'll accommodate it. But yeah, I just think this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. It really bugs me. The gang sheeting thing really bugs me from a quality perspective. I talk about it a lot. We talk about it a lot. I think we'll do a lot more podcasts on it. I think we'll do a lot more videos on it. But gang sheeting in my mind is it's just dangerous. It leads to bad quality. It leads to unhappy customers.
And wasted time.
And unhappy customers. That's got to be the number one for me. Is it really, really bad quality leads to unhappy customers, leads to you not having the business you want to have.
Sure.
Okay. Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, wrap it.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Cheers. If you're stuck with us for this long, congratulations.